All right. All right. So my prior bias going into last week, my bias going into the week. Man, I didn't take any notes. Why isn't there? Well, I was looking for a long into here, which ended up coming a little bit later than I thought, and then that played out, and then I was looking for ideally a short that did set up on Nasdaq here. That also played out. So I was right about that. Didn't expect it to happen on Tuesday, but I mean, it didn't happen on Tuesday or on Monday. So I mean, it means it's gonna happen on Tuesday. So so yeah, that was pretty spot on. Um, I was expecting a bit of a sell-off possible because there was let's go to the daily. I wasn't really expecting a sell-off, but I was expecting like some sort of down move to go back up, and then we just happened to create the bearish SMT that did confirm a bearish trade. So that's what happened last week, and then we just expanded pretty low. Um, we had those relative equal lows on the Dow. We had um, a move back into discount, which makes sense on the Nasdaq being the weakest, taking out relative equal highs. I'm thinking something similar could happen in the Russell, where it just sweeps below these relative equal highs. It doesn't need to, but seems like that would make sense. And we probably want to create SMT before we go back up. So yeah, I mean it's likely that Nasdaq actually does actually come lower, and maybe that something creates some sort of SMT. We'll wait for that to happen. It could create SMT inside of the current range or the some sort of price action here instead of like with the low down here. So, but we'll get to that in the game plan. But yeah, it looks like we did get the initial move up and then the possible long setup there, which I'll have to do a review on or a write up on. Creating SMT there, right where we were inside of that low. So yeah. So yeah, nothing really else to note unless I zoom in and really take a look at the smaller time frame price action. Last week the news was this week there was CPI, PPI, and retail sales. This week we only have unemployment claims on Thursday and PMI on Friday. But we do have some orange folders every day. So I think trading the opens should still be good. Um, and then yeah, Thursday, Friday should be good. So I'll keep an eye out on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for day trades in the morning. Um, maybe look for some sort of swing trade during just the regular hours. But next week we have no news on Monday, and then we have consumer confidence. We've got GDP, PCE, and then no news again. So Gotta be a little bit more cautious, but at the same time, um, there should still be some stuff, at least on the openings. All right. But yeah, not a week to like go super heavy and risk a lot. Mm. So let's get into the game plan. Starting with YM. So yeah, big move 2 weeks ago, and then last week we've since just taken out the high, retraced a bit, um, created the wick, digging into that a bit. So we do have a confirmed fair value gap here, lining up with an inversion on the weekly. So this is going to be a strong level to watch if we do come lower. Oops. As for the daily, we still have this full inefficiency here. Um, Looking for a discount onto that will be, you know, pretty, yeah, pretty close to this. So, but yeah, we are tapping the previous high. Daily, no inefficiencies on the downside yet. But on the 4 hour, we do have this 4 hour fair value gap that we failed to trade into, and then we also have some relative equal highs here. So keep that on watch. Oops. Um, Small efficiency here. Everything's been pretty balanced on the way down, which kind of makes me think this move down is pretty close to being done. Uh, a bit of relative equal lows here, so could easily come lower before we, if we end up do end up coming higher, and then we are taking out some relative equal lows there. But yeah, it's hard to frame a trade just off of this super high time frame price action when we're just barely digging into it. So if anything, shorts are still on the cards, in the cards. Um, there's been no shifts here, so I don't like that. There is one up here, and on the daily we don't have one yet. So we need another day of price action to confirm that. It's likely that we would rebalance this candle probably tomorrow, somewhat. So looking for some sort of short SMT for us to continue lower, or some sort of SMT at least initially to get us short-term long for maybe a short later. So those are kind of the ideas I have for YM. Let me write these down. No hard time framed displacements to the downside, really. Just the 4 hour above those highs. Everything to the downside has been constantly rebalanced. So the daily move down could easily follow suit and get rebalanced tomorrow or today if they're going to manufacture this low. So these highs, yeah, it'd probably come take out the candle high if it's going to do that. We do have a fair value gap here on the 4 hour, so we do need to mark that. Turn that red. That's just so small. All right, so yeah, we got a fair value gap here. We've got kind of relative equal lows, so it makes sense that we would actually come trade above this before maybe continuing lower. We'll see. Just an idea right now. But yeah, we've rebalanced everything up until there and then up into here. So yeah, SMT is going to play a big role, obviously, as usual. But yeah, so far we're respecting this area, relative equal lows here, and then we did respect it there. Then we traded through it and continued to make this some sort of retail level. So I think they're going to use this as a soup. There is an inefficiency here. Don't know what that's from. Here. So we need to mark that out. Turn that blue. So yeah, there's a little daily inefficiency there. We didn't really come back and trade to it. So yeah, that could be it. This may not be significant. It might just come take this little high out. Maybe see of that wick. Let's see what's happening here. Yeah, there's an order block there. So close, trades down, and then opens up higher. And we do got some little highs there to take out. Bit of high resistance liquidity there. I think we'd probably come take this out, and then that lines up with this area too. So yeah, but yeah, we are farming relative equal lows here, so maybe that's what happens. We come take that out and then roll back over for the final leg down on the move, and then maybe move back up. That's just kind of what I'm thinking. Um, no real basis to confirm that yet, though. Was that a okay? That was. We have not on the total range. We haven't gone to discount, so that's why that makes sense to me. Especially since they're manufacturing a low here. So I'd look for a rebalance of this candle as a possible trade idea. So yeah, we'll be looking for that, but at the same time, it could just keep going lower. We could just trade halfway here. I just like that idea though. It makes a lot of sense since there's lows there, lots of liquidity. People have their stops probably above Friday's candle. So it makes a lot of sense there. And then to come lower, so it'd be like something like this, and then some low, and then back up probably. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially just with the quick look that I looked in the other charts. So looking for there is an old daily for value gap here, so I'm just gonna leave that there. Set an alert here to look for the short, and then we'll set an alert, down into here, because we may just take that out and then come up and then come down. So maybe I'm just gonna get rid of this alert actually. Cool. We can get rid of this alert. Don't need that. All right, and yeah, just gonna line that up with the discount. We could even come all the way back here. This original order block. There is the weekly inversion with an order block there. So makes a lot of sense. It could bounce anywhere into here. Could easily soup that before bouncing. So could I'm just saying it could head lower. So they might even use these lows to soup to the highs and then go lower. So looking for a long based on that makes sense too. So yeah, there's just several areas of interest here. This one and this one for a long and then a short, or a long two here for the short down here. So that's my idea so far. At least on the higher time frame, we'll do a smaller time frame analysis once we've looked at the other charts to get like an idea about what's happened. All right, let's look at NASDAQ. So NASDAQ took out the highs, and why is this not marked out? Guess it should be green now. Huh? I'm just gonna leave that to the left. Weekly IFVG, which we respected there, came back up, and now we just tap back into it. Lots of crap on here. But yeah, we've got kind of relative equal lows, or sorry, highs here at the highs now. So I'm gonna mark that out and just mark out the all-time high. All right. But yeah, as for the weekly, we've rebalanced that prior week perfectly. Um, it's still holding. I mean, this is definitely a significant area. We've got somewhat relative equal highs here. Those got souped. Big move back up, barely takes the high, instantly back down. Um, so just a lot to look at into here as we zoom in. All right, so yeah, we've come back down to the, why is this here? Oh, this is the inversion as well. This shouldn't be red. So that's kind of lined up with this weekly one that we also are kind of respecting. Um, we've traded below these highs, so that's a nice little soup there. Makes sense that we could bounce from here. We've already really worked out this area already, but I mean, it could make sense to come lower and take out these smooth lows. So there's a little trend line there for people to look at. Just gonna note it in my head. But yeah, it makes sense for this to really dig lower. Doesn't need to though, just because it's so weak. But I think what's happening is it's manufacturing shorts on the high, and it's gonna come sweep them for a huge P power of 3, and then probably down. That's just kind of the possible power of 3 setup. I'm gonna delete that. All right, there's just a lot of lines on here that I kind of want to just get rid of. Monthly lows. Yeah, I've taken out all the highs there. Big wick. Um, yeah, there are some really significant lows here, and just a big old wick that never got tapped into. So yeah, this thing here could easily be traded down into. Um, but again, we are manufacturing the highs, so that just seems a little too interesting. And yeah, I mean, we're respecting this inversion. Um, There is a bearish inversion here now, so we can clean this up a bit. So that's a bearish daily. Oops, why did I do that? So bearish level there. We've taken out a lot of liquidity already. We've already reached a discount. Looks like we basically completely filled this regular trading hours gap. Same thing with this one. And now we're trading into that, respecting that. Let's just, what is that? Just confirm. Okay. So, yeah. All right. So there's the kind of the higher time frame. Last higher time frame chart is 4 hour. Just a lot of inefficiencies. You could easily just come back up to rebalance those before heading lower. We have a 4 hour fair value gap getting very nicely respected here. So that's pretty clean, and there's a new week opening gap there. And we've taken out these highs pretty deeply. We've just tapped this wick. Yeah, not an area of interest I would be framing anything from on NASDAQ, at least like inside of this range for like a trade. It's just nothing obvious. It's just big move up, big move down. Like there's no, it'd have to be some sort of swing trade. So if I was to swing trade, I'd probably want to look at this. Oh yeah, we're respecting old PD arrays, old higher time frame PD arrays, but zooming in, there's just nothing super clean to like frame anything off of. Maybe if we zoom into the 1 hour. Okay, there we go. So here's the real order block to the downside. And yeah, oh, you can just see that we respected that. Yeah, so we came down, tapped into that. So it makes sense that we're bouncing. Yeah, nice little order block here, starting here, coming down into this old price action. Now we're using that. So yeah, that makes sense that we are bouncing there. 15-minute, nothing really. You'd have to really zoom into that to see what's going on. As for relative equal highs, not really. There's nothing really here. We've got relative equal lows here that did get traded into, so that could be a level later. But yeah, just pretty straight line down. Hard to frame anything off of that. So just going to be looking for smaller time frame stuff here, and SMT. YM was pretty clean. Excuse me. And that short up here was just, that was the play for sure. That was the obvious play on the week. Uh, but yeah, when we displace above a high, you don't want to see it immediately get rebalanced like that. Doesn't necessarily mean it's like gonna keep going down, but we did pause up here, which is good, but having no up candles just makes this look pretty bearish. Like it's up candles and then straight down candles. So this could go either way. We obviously do have the draw back up to the highs again for a nice higher time frame bear market kind of a thing. A lot of people are probably watching this as some sort of wedge. Um, with a nice manipulation there above the high, coming back down into the wedge, and then they're thinking if, oh, that's bearish, we're likely going to break down and come all the way back down to these lows. Whoa, which makes a lot of sense because we got relative equal lows here. So that could easily happen. I mean, this is a level I was looking at a long time ago that never got tapped into. So, but yeah, I mean, it would make sense for this to really come back up and sweep that before breaking down. Um, yeah, I'm gonna leave that on the chart. Actually, that's just super clean, too clean to not have there. So you could say we've already kind of tapped it right there. Um, but yeah, I could easily see this souping these lows and then coming all the way back up and then rolling over just to fuck everybody up. So we'll see what happens there. That'll be interesting for framing a really long-term swing trade. So I'll be watching this for a swing opportunity up into these highs. If you could catch that, you know, you catch like a pretty tight day trade entry and then you catch it all the way to those lows, that'd be insane. So I'll be looking for that. That's like a really good opportunity here. These lows down here are just too clean. These highs are too clean. Looking for a long or a short all the way down into here. So I probably would like to see this get taken out first to frame a short. If I was, I wouldn't hold anything all the way down to here, um, unless we took this out. Because to me, it's like we could easily start souping it, but then come and take it out and then go. So I don't want to see one of them taken first before the opposing direction of a bias. It did take out the high, but it's too relatively equal, especially with all the daily closes there. So NASDAQ, not super clean for day trades yet, but forming a nice look for a huge higher time frame trade off higher and then lower possibly. So yeah, I mean this could easily be a long. It is just kind of harder to frame that when we just don't have a clean look, just straight up, straight back down happening. Um, if we look at old price action, there's just no market structure shifts either. The only one, still nothing. So this was a nice structural shift here. Oh, we gotta turn the magnet back on. Back into here. But that, you can see that got completely disrespected. So, but I mean, later on it did play a role, but never got traded into here. So, yeah, kind of a tough range. Maybe in the monthly. Yeah, nothing on the monthly either. Quarterly. No displacement on the quarterly. So yeah, you have to use the daily for structure. We did technically shift above here. So that is slightly leaning to a bullish bias favor. And we do have SMT at these lows, so I'll have to compare the SMTs here on the daily. just to confirm that thesis. So we'd want to see SMT into these lows. Which these are two equal here on ES. Okay, yeah, so yeah, we did confirm this. So yeah, I do actually like a long here now, a swing trade long. So I'll be looking for that on NASDAQ. Um, we tapped into an order block, everything's sort of there. Now we would just look for a daily um, sort of a setup long and then use that SMT into here to get long for a swing all the way back up into these highs. So that'd be pretty good. Yeah, cool. So So yeah, the only problem is we have already, like this has already played out. We've already taken out all-time highs. We've already souped all the highs here. Um, so it's literally like, okay, if this, um, if this doesn't hold, then yeah, we're just gonna dump like crazy. But I still think there's a narrative here. Um, not a narrative. It's just too clean to have these highs here. So I think there's a draw on liquidity higher before lower. Is that's my bias. And we had SMT here. We did technically displace above all these highs. So this trend ideally should continue at least for that bias. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right, ES. So no market structure shift on ES on the weekly. We've traded back into the prior week. We've reached a discount, so there we go. ES has everything, NASDAQ has everything it would technically need. Tap back into this order block using old relative equal highs as a soup level. By the way, crypto has been breaking out even though we had a big sell-off last week. So yeah, anyways. All right, so yeah, we souped these highs. We did displace, we had continued bullishness. So, and this is technically a higher time frame order block and or like some sort of breaker or whatever. Um, so it makes sense that we would bounce here. We tap the CE of this regular trading hours gap there. So that's super clean. I wouldn't really expect it to go lower than, the CE of this order block. So yeah. As for inefficiencies, this is now inverted into a red one. So that's there. So yeah, similar to YM. But yeah, we've definitely souped these lows into a higher time frame order block, respecting the CE of a gap. So that's really clean. We've already taken out the low. We've already tapped into that. So everything's kind of there for at least some sort of long up into there. As for the 4 hour, just a shitload of inefficiencies all the way up. There's a little significant high here. You can actually look at that, interestingly enough, there. So that's an area of interest there that I would definitely mark. And there are inefficiencies all the way into this, so makes sense. Um, but yeah, same thing as NASDAQ, just straight line down, kind of hard to dictate what's going on there. We have failed below this low, so that really shows that what I'm looking for is starting to kind of confirm that it is there along because we're failing above this. So I'd look for some sort of probably soup below the lows, and then an SMT with um, the indices, and that would actually probably create a nice long there. So yeah, it has a clear reason to bounce and a nice drawn liquidity, at least internal. Yeah, we've taken out these never got swept into onto the way up, in on the way up. So now we've dug deep into them, and we've tapped this humongous order block, and yeah, failed to displace below that. So yeah, super clean, at least on the higher time frame. So yeah, just gonna look for some sort of more price action here on the smaller time frames, very similar to Nasdaq and YM. Um, we've already really worked out these old highs here, um, accumulating below them. But we do have a very, very strong draw, just like on Nasdaq lower. So I think it also makes sense for this to come lower too. Um, don't know if that's what's going to happen, but just seems like we would want to take those highs out on Nasdaq. It would make a lot of sense for all these to head higher. Nasdaq soups those highs, and then Russell gets that move up that we've been wanting, and then we get the really big short um, down into here for ES, down to there for Nasdaq, and then yeah, that's just a higher time frame drawn liquidity there. Looking at the higher time frame though, just to see if there's anything I'm missing. Okay, we do have a huge quarterly fair value gap here. We still have another month for it to confirm, but it is there. So gonna add that in all caps. There we go. Is it below those lows? Yeah, huge quarterly fair value gap below the lows. That is so crazy. That is just too clean. I'm gonna make this like purple or something, just to show that it's very significant. Yeah, really, really strong drawn liquidity lower here. We could already be on our way down, but I would have liked to see a huge SMT here, but we didn't really get one. We have an SMT. Yeah, everybody's taking that high up. So there's no confirmed move to the downside yet. So you can't trade that yet. So yeah, it is a bullish bias for everything. Um, yeah. So there we go. Russell now. So Russell is the only one that has not taken out the all-time high. Obviously, we gotta look at these stock tickers too, by the way. We should have already done that. Oh, but yeah, we have displaced above this high. Um, I don't like how it has failed on the weekly to do that. Um, that's very significant that it's failing. Well, okay, not very. But this is a daily fair value gap here. All right, now everything's caps. Um, oh no, sorry, that's a weekly. Whoops. Weekly fair value gap. So there's a weekly there. Russell really likes to just completely rebalance every single thing ever, so it makes sense that that's happening. I think all we would need is a daily shift there, and we have it. So shift is clearly there on Russell. Russell's looking the most bullish. I do think it makes sense though for it to come lower, just to soup these old highs just a little bit. So probably come and take out this this candle and then hold this order block ideally for a nice long-term swing. Doesn't need to, but it kind of already has enough to do a nice move up. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I would like this to soup though to be really liking along. It's very similar to everything else though. It's just rebalanced it. It's in a discount. Uh, it's definitely in the. It's just rebalancing the inefficiencies. It has a reason to bounce. Um, I do think it needs a little bit lower though. Uh, so I mean, there is a bit of a retail thing happening here. An old wedge that's broken out. Nice little soup there. Big breakout. Comes back down into the wedge, just like NASDAQ, and then probably breaks out again. So I do like that. That's actually pretty clean. So very similar to NASDAQ, actually, oddly enough. So yeah, I would look, if there's a short setup, I'm definitely going to be looking for a short on these three. Also, Russell, I'd only be looking for a long, just because of my higher time frame bias is that this is going to six sister itself up. So I think if anything, the Dow may end up showing some weakness. No, okay, I'm kind of going off on a limb there. Everything is showing that we could bounce. That's all that's really happening. So yeah. All right. So 4 hour, 1 hour. Okay, wait. Daily. So yeah, daily we do have some bearish inefficiencies here, very clearly. Yeah. So that really lines up with what I saw on YM. And we have these relative equal lows. Mm, there. That did get, these did get souped already there. As for here, nothing really. It's just these highs or these highs. And these are already getting souped actually. So this already has, technically it does have enough to bounce too. So I'm looking for a long on all of these, at least to rebalance. I've seen that happen so many times. Nice soup above this, probably into the daily fair value gap. Probably the CE of it. Makes a lot of sense there. So looking at, very overwhelming, so many charts. Looking at how we've come down, let's see if there's any SMT here. So YM puts in the low here, and then Russell did create a weakness SMT there. Um, so nothing to write home about. ES has also ES has not taken out that low. So right now there's only a weakness SMT in Russell. And same thing with NASDAQ. So weakness in the NASDAQ and the Russell, oddly enough. And then zooming into just this Friday low, yeah, nothing super significant, just another weakness. Oh wait, maybe we're not looking at that right. So yeah, the Dow did set a higher low here, so there is a shorter time frame thing happening there. But I would need more price action to. I'm not just going to use that. That's not enough for me. It's enough for like what has already happened, like a rebalance into that fair value gap, which already happened. So, and these guys have already gone slightly higher, taking out this high. Oh wait. I mean, that is a 15-minute. All right, so just zooming in. So yeah, it's just not. So Dow Jones showing a little bit of strength here. We have another dip here. Did anybody take this high out? No. Nobody's taken out this high. So we've come down, created another order block, sweeping these highs here. And now we're getting another SMT from this low. No, from this. So yeah, we did get an SMT here. So this should actually be like right at the open. You could technically get long um, along into here possibly, just for a shorter time frame trade up into. Right. So there's relative strength in the Dow here. And then everybody bounces together. And then we create SMT here where everybody's manipulating this low. No, Dow manipulates this low here. What happens in Russell? Russell very strong into that. Wow. So there is an SMT here. The weakness is in the Dow. So getting long there would have been nice. We haven't technically shifted yet. So there is a little bit of a setup here, but it's pretty unclear for me where to. It's just so small that it's just gonna. I mean, it's already kind of played out. It's taken out a high here. I would have wanted to get in here on the SMT and then get out as we took out this high probably. So this high, Russell hasn't taken it out. So yeah, I'd look for more. I mean, yeah, that it is there, but it's just what's the draw on liquidity for that trade, you know? I think I would need because since it's very internal to just this small range, like we would need it with higher time frame, I think, like with one of these significant swing lows. This tiny little SMT here. It does show that the Dow Jones is getting some strength. So yeah, maybe a long in the Dow actually makes sense. SMT there, failure to shift out of there, but we did get a shift at least internally. Yeah, it's hard to say because usually we want to take out the low before we go up. So yeah, I mean that SMT is intact, and the Dow never got any sort of move up. But then here there's actually the opposite SMT where the Dow's weaker there. So yeah, we would need something higher time frame. Cool to look at. So we'll watch what happens there at the lows. Um, Quickly, just to go through stock tickers, just to see if there's any clear levels that we're missing. Um, I mean, this already got traded into on the stock ticker too. Very clean on SPY. QQQ had these old relative equal highs. Those got traded into. Okay, on QQQ, we've already had a soup. These are not equal highs versus NASDAQ. They are. So that is that a little bit telling there. That could be wrong about that. But there is no wedge here like there is on, maybe. Yeah. So yeah, we had a nice little fake out with the wedge. And there's a gap there. We should mark that out. Yeah. So yeah, we kind of souped it here, souped it there. Now we're on the opposite side of it. That's what it looks like if you're using this one. Hmm. All right, well, let's look at the flow. We haven't done that yet. So Friday's flow, very bearish. Um, Continued put premiums into the lows. You can see them literally coming back up. Calls did come up here too, though. But, oh, and there is declining put volume there. So, yeah, I think that confirms a possible bounce is what I'm looking for. Very bearish flows there. Let's see if we can get some more data there, just from the last 3 days. Pretty even. We got some low volume day with premiums. I think they must have already prepared for that. Yeah. So they used these few days here to get short, and then they've been selling calls. Uh, hmm, calls did come up here. So maybe the tide's calling it out. Green, huge call dump, huge complex. Okay, this is where they really sold calls. Hmm. Flow pretty tricky. It's not really giving much. So they could have been preparing for this earlier. Yeah, look at the premiums here, mostly in puts. Yeah, kind of a tough one. I mean, puts or calls were negative, all three here, and puts were slightly positive. So, and then calls really came down here. So maybe what happened is they did kind of buy back there. Like this call buying shouldn't be there, you know. So, like yeah. And with the volume coming up, so I think that is kind of telling that there is something happening here at the lows. We did get a little bounce there, but yeah, mostly mostly call premiums there. Tide is a lot trickier. It's just back and forth. And then puts did come up here. They were positive, calls went negative, but then we had this day. Didn't make any sense. So, and then this really just followed the way on the way down. Hmm. Yeah, tide not super clear, but we still have a few options to look at tide. So let's look at QQQ. So QQQ at the lows, at least on Friday, lots of call volume, complete reversal in the calls on the way down, with them flattening out here at the lows and then rising again. So looks like they're gonna position themselves in the Qs. Let's look at this in the last week. Um, okay, so it looks like Qs was the play. It doesn't look like SPY is. It looks like they're using their premium in the Qs to move the market or to get exposure. Because Qs really, that's super obvious. Huge red premium. Um, volume is green. Same thing here. Or sorry, volume is red. And then we got negative call premiums, rising put premiums, and then a higher low or a lower high, sorry, in the puts with a nice dump there. So yeah, they're really longing Qs at those lows. That is exactly what I wanted to see if I'm gonna get long. So I really like the long idea, specifically on Qs. Let me write my notes on the flow. SPY not telling us much, whereas the QQQ flow is where it looks like they are working it to are using it long. So yeah, it looks like huge call selling here. Like what the heck? I should have looked at this, taking this more serious. There's always positioning in one of the indices in the flow, and Q's was the one. Huge call selling. You know, they did ramp it back up, but we did get a move up there. So huge call selling again with puts on top 3 days in a row, puts or calls on bottom. You know, we get a nice day here, but then most of the premium was the puts there, getting disguised. Puts, puts, puts. Huge reversal there. Um, there's a divergence very clearly there at that low. Same thing with the calls. Huge divergence. So they totally took profits and they totally got long there on the Qs. So let's add one more. Let's add IWM. Very bullish IWM as well. Wow, there we go. Super bullish flow there. Oh, and then just quickly look at the last 7 days. So yeah, they really were ramping up the puts there. You know, we were breaking out and I was confused why the puts were coming up, and that's why I got out early on some of my trades. Very clear now why they were doing that. They took an amazing amount of profits here on their put premiums while buying calls all day Thursday and Friday at the lows, with lower lows in the puts, which makes sense, but higher lows in the calls. So very, very, very clearly reversally looking. Wow, very obvious. That is what we wanted to see. Very obvious flow. So that's awesome. Now that we have that in mind, maybe that SMT is definitely in play. So using the 5 minute, we may be able to get into a trade here on Sunday, because we had this manipulation SMT here on the YM. Oh, quickly, let me look at YM just for fun. Usually it's not very significant, but it's been lately. Yeah, not really significant for Friday. But yeah, we did have put buying. They have been taking profits on their puts, and they did get, you know, some long. Wow. Calls, call ramping. Not making much sense there though. Yeah, so at the high, they completely dumped their calls, bought them back up, and then got mostly in put premiums. And then completely dumped their calls Thursday on the way down, so that makes sense, with puts coming lower, and then a little spike in calls there. So that's cool. But yeah, on the Russell, we did get that weakness there, and then a SMT here with the Dow, and since then it's been holding up pretty strong. It's just too tough. of a read there. Oops. So yeah, SMT, that was along there in basically everything. So this is an internal range. So we did get a higher move up here in the Dow, and then we had a weaker move, but it was only in the Dow. So yeah, ideally, the problem is we did create an SMT there. So yeah, I mean, I I still want to see a little bit of a higher time frame SMT there. That SMT did play out though, but now we're just getting the opposite here. So looking for a long SMT is definitely the play still. So we're gonna watch the lows. So that's the game plan. Looking for the lows um, on everything to be taken. Just quickly going through this. What's happened here on the Russell? Failed to take out the all-time highs, but nice little, very clear draw on liquidity, just like on the Nasdaq. So yeah, just gonna look for SMT lower, and then look for a long. Um, kind of hard to really tell like how that would form. It may even take a few days, but let's see. Took out that low, took out that low. We all took out. Let's see. All of us have taken out this low, right? Yeah. Oops. No. Just the Russell and just the Nasdaq. So it does seem like Russell and the Nasdaq are being manipulated here. And I like that the flows are in the Russell and the Nasdaq. So I'd want to long them over the other ones since they both have a clear draw on liquidity higher. So yeah, cool. So yeah, something could set up today. We'll keep an eye out. What happened to VIX? Yeah, VIX really rejecting off of that move higher. Nice. Yeah, looking pretty weak there. Yeah, so I'll probably just wait till the open though on tomorrow. We'll see. Uh, yeah, looking for a clear S&T is the plan. Um, but yeah, they are really accumulating these lows though. So you could even expect, and with the daily, it's just like man, it just seems like they're gonna immediately rebalance this. I mean, it could take 2 days, but seems very logical that that's what would happen. It really is just kind of hard to tell like how they're going to create the SMT though. Let's see if we can just get an idea. And, all right, I guess we gotta do it with all of them. Come on, guys. All right. Yeah, it seems like we just want to like do a nice little sweep. We've got relative equal lows on YM. So my bet is YM is going to make the sweep lower on this whole range. And if these guys hold up, buy it and hold it. So at least short term, there should be a nice little day trade off of that. But yeah, I'll be looking for the Dow and I'd want Russell to also hold up too, ideally. But they could all make a lower low, and if one of them makes a higher low on these lows, that would make sense. So yeah, I'll be waiting for possibly the open, most likely. Um, they have already positioned themselves in the calls, so that's why I think it could happen today. But it's just a lot harder to kind of frame that. So I'll just be keeping an eye out. But yeah, that's the plan um, for everything. So that's the plan for the week. Yeah, other than that,